This is going to be great. Very, very significant panelist or guest here, Katrina Klier from Microsoft. The abstract says one of the easiest and most natural things we all do today is sign up for membership in one social community or another, or in many cases more than one. So how do we maximize the experience so that all of the communities we belong to have some focus and friends, both in a personal and business sense, and that they become true friends? To help us understand, the Senior Director of Worldwide Digital Engagement from Microsoft, all the way from Seattle, please welcome Katrina Klier. I'll tell you what, I'll even give you the politically incorrect t-shirt.
Oh, awesome.
Whoops, sorry.
So what does my politically incorrect t-shirt say? Oh, my tweets are real. There we go. My tweets actually are real.
It's all bad.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here in Toronto with you today. Canada, as many of you may know, is a huge market for Microsoft. It's one of my favorite places to do business. It's a highly digitally connected and engaged population, and it's a real honor to be here with you today. So as you heard, I run the Worldwide Digital Marketing Organization for the OEM business at Microsoft, which are the partners that make all of those lovely things that are connected to the internet that you're playing with right now. If it has glass and you interface with it and get content and do things, the people that make those products are who I work with every day. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of a journey story in my presentation, and it's called From Community to Kinship for a reason. We all have built online communities, and in my day job, we ask the question, what comes next? So what comes after an online community, and how should we think about that? So we're going to walk through some of the thinking that we had around this, which I hope you'll find insightful. And then to make this a little bit more personal, we're going to go through a story from my actual day job. Okay? And I think we have all the requisite stuff up here. I'm at Katrina Klier on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm fortunate to have a fairly unique name, so I'm pretty easy to hunt down. If you want to find me online, please do so. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how marketing used to be. And I think there might be a few people like me in the room that remember this age of marketing, where marketing was very outbound focused. It was all very one way. If you were a customer, it was very often like hitting a brick wall with an arrow to direct you in a certain direction. You wanted to know about a brand or a product, you usually heard about it through advertising. On television, in your newspaper, in your favorite magazine, listening to the radio as you drove to work. And all of these impressions were there for the asking. As a brand, you simply bought your time and reaped the benefit of people who were eager to hear from you. It was the golden age of advertising, the inspiration for the television show Mad Men, which I'm here is coming back shortly. Any fans of Mad Men in the room? Yeah? Fun show. So it was the golden age of all these different things. And as people started to learn more about our brands and products, they actually wanted to know more. They were curious about what else that we could tell them. How could they use our products more effectively? Who else was using these different products, and where could they find them? So they wanted more from us. Well, then a brilliant thing happened in the world, and that was called the internet. And with that, all of a sudden, the world's information was everywhere. No longer as a brand could you geographically contain a message or a product, because anyone in the world could hear about you or your products regardless of where they were. And it was a wonderful thing for customers. For marketers, we thought, this is fantastic. Look at all these people that want to hear from us. We can track data about where they go and what they read and who they talk to, and we can form communities of these people and market to them more effectively. So we all did what good marketers will do. We went out and we rounded up the market research people, and we did all this analysis and talked to people, and out of this came all the things that we do every day now in the digital world, like SEO, SEM, all of these different things. And the taglines and the tag words in your website became as important as your brand tagline and your brand pillars. You wanted to be found. And so from this, we started to group customers or prospective customers together in things that we dubbed communities. We did all this analysis and we said, oh, this is fantastic. All these people have the following few things in common. They all live in Canada, they reside in Toronto, and they drive blue cars. Great! We can tell all of these people a certain thing because we know people that live in Canada, reside in Toronto, and drive blue cars will like what we have to say. So it was great, and customers like this too, right? Many of us have been on the receiving end of this. We liked it because we got more personal information. We got things that were more relevant to us. And we were like, that's pretty good. We can find more information. As brands, we thought this is fantastic. Now we can build predictive marketing models. And Amazon's done this brilliantly. People who bought this also bought that. If you liked this, you might like that. American Express brilliantly will send you advertising for vacations about 4 to 6 months before you usually take one, because they know that's when you're going to plan it. So predictive marketing model and community engagement was the name of the game. And many brands still work in this world today, and quite effectively. But we were sitting around at Microsoft and said, okay, communities of people have things in common, but they also have a lot of things that are different about them. You know, maybe I live in Canada, reside in Toronto, and drive a blue car, but I'm really interested in driving a hybrid because I'm concerned about the environment. Or maybe I live just outside of town and I drive an SUV because I have to get through the snow to get to work on a more regular basis. So what are the other themes and the other nuances that this community of people could share with each other and share with us? Which of course then begs the question, what comes after community? So what comes next? We've done a great job getting people together on similar attributes. So now what do we do to keep them engaged? And then another brilliant thing in the world happened, and that was the onset of social media. Who's involved in any kind of social media whatsoever? Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. If you're here, I think probably every hand goes up, right? So social media actually allowed us to get more insights into the folks in our different communities, hear what's important to them, and turn what was still mostly outbound, but not all outbound marketing, into a dialogue and a conversation. And so with social media, that gave us an opportunity to really translate these communities into something else. And the something else is moving to kinship. So if you look up the definition of kinship, and there's a whole variety of them out there, it basically is a group of people who have a deeper connection than simply a few characteristics in common. The traditional definition gets into genealogy, but you could loosely translate that in the marketing world to common core beliefs, deeply held interests, and things that motivate them to take action. So we said, okay, so this concept of kinship could be really interesting. Maybe we should think about that. What are the things we really need to make sure we get right when we think about kinship? Because kinship is a little bit riskier as a brand, right? You actually have to step out from behind your brand pillars. You have to listen to, but not be held hostage by, your PR folks. We love them, they're wonderful, but the world has changed. And you have to be more out in front and engaging. So there's 3 main things that we thought were important to make sure we got right and really internalized on this journey. The first one being choice. So in this new world order of not just the internet, but the internet plus social media, and now mobile experience, and almost any kind of device you can think of can connect to the internet today, as you saw from presentations earlier. And we were thinking about almost like what is our share of glass, if you will. All the different kinds of glass that you look at to consume information and interact with. Your phone, your television, your computer, a tablet, a kiosk, an ATM machine, a broader display that's touch-enabled in a retail store. All of these different glass that you engage with, what is our share of that glass and how do we think about that? Well, choice is hugely important because nowadays your customers are 100% empowered to choose how they engage with you. Do they believe your brand? Do they believe your advertising? Do they want to hear from you or do they not? Do they tell other people they've had a fantastic experience with your products or do they tell them it wasn't really what they thought it would be? So they have full choice in how they engage with you and your brand, and how they receive the information that you'd like to give back to them. And that's really important because you want to embrace that choice and provide opportunities for them to act on it in the way that works for them. The second thing that became really important is that concept of being interactive. So old school marketing, very outbound focused. The internet, a little bit more inbound and outbound, right? But in the social media era, it's truly interactive and it has to be a dialogue over time. So you need to go beyond just the drive people to a place of purchase and get them to transact. Because the transaction isn't the end of the marketing story, it's the beginning of the next chapter of your marketing story with that customer. So how do we interact with them on an ongoing basis? Simply because they've purchased a product from us doesn't mean that we stop or we come back to them at some point in the future and say, try this now. We'd like to have an ongoing conversation with them. What did you like? What went well for you? What could we do better? What should we not do anymore? What are all those different things that can make that interaction relevant and meaningful for that customer past the point of purchase? And of course, to make all of this work, you have to be very, very authentic. And I know that's kind of an overused word in the digital space anymore, and what does that really mean? But it means you actually have to put a human face to your brand and a human face to your interactions, meaning there's great things about your brand, and there's probably not such great things about your brand. And you have to embrace all of those together and have that ongoing conversation with them to create positive connections and, over time, brand advocates. So a lot of this moving to kinship is about the ongoing relationship you have with your community after they purchase from you and after they initially engage with you. So if you think about those three things and all the changes in digital marketing and digital media around the world, it gets really complex really quickly. Even if you don't work for a giant global brand, there's still a lot to think about in terms of how you do this well. So I thought the best way to possibly explain some of this would be an example from my day job. So I've been at Microsoft for 7 years and in my current role for slightly over 2. And when I took this job, I did what I always do when I start a new job, and I'm like, okay, so where are we? What do I have to work with? What's the landscape look like? I knew we wanted to change and improve a lot of the way we engaged with our partner community. We go to market with many companies around the world. Depending on what day you count them, it's around 180,000 companies in nearly every country in the world. In every market where Microsoft does business, my team engages with our partners on the ground that sell all these wonderful devices to all of you in the room and other places. So I'm like, okay, big, broad geography. That could be kind of a fun sandbox to play in. Lots going on there. I said, so what do these partners think about us? What have they told us lately? How are we doing? What do they think we could do better? And this is where it wasn't such a great day when I got all of this research back, although I'm always happy to know what's going on because then I can do something about it. We did a bunch of research and found that partner satisfaction was really not that good. So 64% of them were less than satisfied with us. Yikes, right? Not a good way to start the day. And partner feedback in the qualitative components, they told us, look, I don't think you really care about me, Microsoft. I feel like an afterthought, and it's kind of rude, and I'm not happy about that. So that was a little painful. But on the flip side of that, I was like, okay, there's hope. 62% of them said, you know, I think you can and should do better. It's all right. You're not happy with what we're doing today, but you feel like we can improve. All right, I can work with that. And their perception was that we needed more information and support and engagement with them. And they were pretty clear about what that looked like. My challenge was, I had a few websites, I had a few different things here and there, I had some great people on the ground in different parts of the world, but I didn't really have an end-to-end proactive way to go engage this amazing community of partners that sell our stuff every day, without whom we wouldn't do any business. So a couple weeks into this job, I looked a lot like the guy in this picture in terms of, okay, now what are we going to do? And it was one of those moments, I think everyone's had a job like this. Who's had a job where a few weeks into it you went, should have asked for more money? Yeah? Everybody's had at least one somewhere in their career. The good news with those jobs is once you fix them, you usually can ask for more and they'll give it to you. But anyway, I looked a lot like this guy in the picture, and I was like, okay, you know, we may not be in a good place today, but there's a lot going on, and we haven't lost faith of our partner community. We can do something about this. And the world was also changing around us. So once we heard from them, we went and looked more broadly about what some of these other trends were in the industry and what was going on. And the big green box in the middle here was the big one that stood out. So there are over 2 billion people in the world who regularly access the internet many times a month. And in a lot of our really critical markets like Canada, it's 77% or more of the population in Canada accesses the internet many times a month. In fact, usually daily. So that's a fantastic, rich set of people who we can win as fans. A lot of these are our partners, and we can turn them into advocates of our brand and our products if we find a really good way to engage them. So what are some of our options, and what are things we should think about in that regard, now that social media has become an emerging trend and is now essentially the new world order? And you can see some of the statistics that jumped out at us. Social media as a digital category has a compound annual growth rate, so CAGR. We won't go into the finance definition of that one. It's just growing a lot. That's all you have to remember. At 26%. And there's over 178 million blogs in the world, which is fascinating when you think about it. And a little more research in that space, while many employers in many countries will block access to social media sites for their employees during the day, very, very few actually block blogs. And they don't because they view blogs as having deep, topical expertise of relevance to how people might do their job. Also, most blogs have moderated comments. So you put a little trust in the blogging community that they're going to screen out the person who might work for you that's just having a colossally bad day and tweets before thinking. We've all seen it happen. So that's huge growth. We needed to have more presence there. Half of Facebook users use the site every day, including a lot of businesses. So business and consumer really collide in the world of Facebook in some fascinating and engaging ways. LinkedIn, we heard from them earlier, they're the 4th largest network in total and the largest network of business professionals in the world. They're in nearly every country where, as an example, we do business, and it's a great way to connect with our partners in a business forum. Also, we found that on a worldwide average, 40% of people will read online product reviews and search online in social communities for references before buying technology products. Now that's a worldwide number. When you dig under the surface of that, what gets very interesting is that percentage tracks nearly exactly to the internet penetration in a country. So in Canada, as an example, roughly 80% of people will check online product reviews and ask their social networks for references and ideas before buying a technology product. That's fascinating to me. And we saw some statistics earlier that people trust references from people they know. So we need to go engage in that space a little bit more, and when people go online to look for this information, we should really make sure we're there with our partners and have good things to say. E-commerce was also a big trend that jumped out at us. It's growing at a worldwide level at about 17% a year, but it has really deep penetration in many markets. Canada, the US, the UK, and many others. E-commerce in the technology space can be up to 80% of the online transactions for how people actually buy these products. And so having a good online marketing presence so people can learn about it, and then if they choose to buy online, or if they'd like to go to a retail store or somewhere else, they've got the information and the ability to actually purchase and then have an ongoing relationship with us afterwards. And the other part, in terms of making sure we could get information out to a community, was when you look at Twitter, which is kind of a fascinating social media site from a brand perspective. Twitter reaches about 10% of internet users around the world. And here's the cool thing. Slightly more than half of them actively follow brands online. So when you tweet and they're following you, you show up in your queue and you stay top of mind with them so they can influence and share your story as well. So when we looked at all of this and said, okay, we've got some work we need to do with this community. We'd really like to get to this concept of kinship. We're clearly not there today, at that point in time anyway. And we've got all these other things going on in the world, so what are we going to do, right? Well, this is all fascinating stuff until the rubber meets the road and you actually have to make things happen. So the way we made it happen was bringing digital completely to the center of our strategy. So our partner strategy now is anchored entirely in what we do in the digital world. It doesn't mean we don't still have people out there talking to our partners. We do. But people take vacations, they change jobs, they get sick, things happen, life happens. We're human beings. So let's create a digital experience that supports that interaction and can be an ongoing engagement with our partners regardless. So we started with this thinking of we need to have a DNA in our organization of gauge and engage, gauge and engage, gauge and engage, day after day after day, hour after hour after hour. What's going on? What are the trends? How are people feeling? How are the perceptions shifting? How should we engage to accelerate trends we like, redirect perceptions we think we may not agree with? How do we take in feedback for things we need to do differently or do more of things people liked? So some of the things that came out of some of our gauge and engage work was creating a center of gravity for our partners with a personalized experience. Because we do business with them every day, we decided to make our partner website the center of gravity for them. And in that, we tried to create a very personal experience. And it's a delicate balance, right, between this paradigm of how do we be everywhere in the world, but yet be personally connected to any partner company we're working with in any country where they might be. So we found that by allowing them to tailor the content that they see on our site, choose the country that they want to see information about, and choose the language they'd like to read it in, we could really get a lot closer to them. So as an example, if I live in Canada, but I'm native French speaking, I can choose Canada as the place I want to see my information, and I can read it all in French. Similarly, I might live in Canada, and I might be native Chinese speaking. Great. Find out everything you want to know about what we're doing in Canada and read it in Chinese so you can understand it and it's easier for you to get to and find the information you want. We really found that move to personalization over the very traditional simply localization approach to marketing to be really effective. And then we wrapped social media around this so our partners could engage with each other. They can engage with us, have conversations about what was important to them, ask us questions. We also used it to create awareness and drive consumption of content on our site. And with social media, there's always a balance of directing traffic to your properties, right? If you would like all this information from us, please come here. And going to where your communities are beyond your brand and engaging with them where they are. Do they read reviews in the tech world on CNET? Do they read reviews on Engadget? Do they read different blogs? Do we have a presence there? Do we connect with those folks? Do we surround them with different content? And lastly, adding digital marketing resources and support for our partners. That e-commerce trend, we really wanted to make sure our partners didn't miss out on those sales. Because if people are shopping and then also buying online, if you're not there with a really good presence, you're going to lose the sale, right? So we really wanted to make sure we did that. So when we put all these things together and really moved digital to the middle of what we did and surrounded it then with a series of social media, mobile, and other components of digital marketing, if you will, we really found that we got some great engagement from them over time. And this is how we started to move further down this path of kinship through digital. In the first year, we saw a 54% growth in our social media engagement, and it continues to be in nice, high, engaging double-digit numbers. Love that. We saw a 15-point improvement in our partner satisfaction in year 1 and 17 points in year 2. So we really could see that these folks who still believed in us as a brand but weren't particularly happy with us when we started were going down this journey with us, eagerly and engaged with us, and it was paying off. They were much happier and their business was performing better. We also saw on our side that the social integration component reduced our support needs by nearly 30%. So we integrated discussion forums in our website for our partners, and we added a Twitter component to that as an example. And we'd look and see what people were asking and what they were talking about. And if we found people kind of regularly stumped or looking for the same thing over and over and over again, we would tweet out the answer and help drive them to the content that they were looking for. And our partners loved this because it was like a real-time answer to a group of people looking for what they wanted, as well as if they individually tweeted at us. So from that, we would see the discussion questions go down in the forums. We'd see the click-throughs on our site go up, and partner satisfaction went up as well, with them often citing some of these new programs that we had put in place. And it was, again, that perpetual motion of gauge and engage every single day. But we didn't really want to stop there we wanted to go beyond driving traffic to these different properties and different things. So we added various digital marketing resources. So one of our gauge and engage outcomes was we need to help our partners do a better job. They're looking for help and assets from us to market more effectively online. So we created a service of marketing syndication, which along our personalization theme, lets a partner go in and choose the different kinds of campaigns and products and information that they would like to go to market with Microsoft. So they choose that. We connect our feed into their website directly, and then it's automatically updated with our different marketing content over time. They can change and opt out of campaigns anytime they want, but it automatically goes into their site and they don't have to think about it. And they loved this. And in the couple years we've had this in market, we've seen these partners' revenue be roughly 5x the partners that didn't participate. So the ones that jumped on this trend of shopping online and e-commerce and embraced the digital marketing from there really, really have shown the benefits of engaging well in that space. So that's always my good selling slide to get everybody to engage with us on different things from a partner perspective. Whoops, wrong button. There we go. So as we've made this journey, we've learned a lot along the way. And one of the main themes is really that Kinship is a strategy, it's not a campaign. So when we really moved digital and that concept of kinship to the middle of everything we did, that's when we got the ongoing engagement from people over time. And where they started to proactively reach out to us for things that they'd like to see and do. So it's not a campaign, it's a strategy that underlies everything you do. As I tell my team all the time, you need to be a good dance partner and let the audience lead us from time to time. They'll surprise you with some amazing insights and things that they can do. Of course, being a good dance partner also means occasionally you're going to get your toes stepped on, and occasionally you might accidentally step on your partner's toes as well. So kinship means showing up when things are pleasant and going well, but being there as well when maybe things aren't so great, and working through those collectively as a community, because kinship matters, and kinship drives value over time. So the last thing is really that kinship is a journey and not a destination. That probably goes without saying from what we've talked about so far, but it's important to celebrate successes along the way. Communities of people who have a kinship connection celebrate with each other. They have holidays, they celebrate successes, they come together in a lot of different ways. So it's important to celebrate with your community over time as well, and thank them for doing business with you over time. So those are some of the lessons we learned along the way. I hope this was helpful for all of you in the room. Again, I'm Katrina Klier, and it's been a pleasure to see you today. I'm around the rest of the event if you have any questions, because I think I'm out of time. Yes, I am. So thank you very much.